Hello, friends. Welcome to the Big Talk. I am so excited for this season. We have talked about the power of story on this show many, many times. And by sharing your story, we know how much it can change and even save someone's life. But what about the storyteller? On this season, we are going to dive deep into how sharing our personal story can change and even save our life. I am super excited to welcome our featured guest today, Jake Kelfer. Jake, are you ready to drop in?
I'm ready.
Jake Kelfer is a lifestyle entrepreneur, life elevator, and coach to ambitious entrepreneurs and freedom seekers. He is the best-selling author of Elevate Beyond and Elevate Your Network, a high-energy motivational speaker and the founder of the Professional Basketball Combine, which helps NBA draft prospects turn their dreams of playing pro basketball into their reality. He and his work have been featured in Forbes, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, NBC Sports, USA Today, Bleacher Report, and many other media outlets. Jake, take a minute to fill us in on anything I missed and talk a little about you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the introduction, Tricia. I'm very excited to be here with you and your audience. And to dive in a little bit about myself and my story is I always had dreams of being in the NBA. I had dreams of being the first person from my hometown to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, being a Southern California guy. And I quickly realized that dream wasn't going to happen by the time I got to college. But what really shaped me as I grew up was understanding that in the pursuit of a dream, if you're willing to take action, good things are going to happen. And that's become a model for everything that I've done, from starting the Combine to writing multiple books to speaking all over the world and to now coaching entrepreneurs on how to grow their business to 6 figures plus.
Tell me what the main catalyst was for you to do this work. It's incredible. I love your story. Bring me more.
So there was a moment where I was working for the Los Angeles Lakers. So my very first job that I had out of college was for the Lakers, which is kind of a full circle moment. As a kid that wanted to play for the team, now I had a chance to be employed by the team. And while I was there, I had an experience with Mr. Jerry West. And Jerry West is the NBA logo. He's a Lakers legend, Hall of Fame player. And we're in the elevator. Okay, and I'm sitting in this elevator, and I thought it was just going to be like any other elevator ride. I didn't know Jerry was in there. Jerry comes in the elevator, and the doors close. Now, you got to understand here, I'm a basketball guy. So my heart's pounding, right? I'm freaking out. This is a legend in there. And all of a sudden, the person working the elevator looks at Jerry, and he says, "Excuse me, sir, where would you like to go?" And Jerry, looks at him and says, "I want to go to the event level." And the person who's working the elevator completely doesn't recognize him at all. So he says, "Well, do you have your credentials? Otherwise, I'm going to have to ask you to step off, because," pointing now at me, "this gentleman's got work to do." And I was like, oh my gosh, did he really just say this? And so Jerry's about to step off. And in that moment, I just gather all the courage and I just blurt out, no, wait. He's with me. He's my guest. I'll escort him down. And so we have the next 14 seconds of the most glorious elevator ride I've ever been on. We step out and Jerry sticks out his hand and he says, "Thank you." And he shakes my hand and we go our separate ways. But in that moment, I realized the power of what one person can have over someone else, and the power that one action can give somebody a feeling that lets them know they're loved, that they're heard, that they're valued, that the work you're doing is making a difference. And that kind of put me on a trajectory of always wanting to elevate people, no matter how I found them, but always make every experience better and beyond what the expectation is.
I love the elevator story. What were you doing at the Lakers? What kind of work were you doing there?
I was a corporate partnerships assistant. So my main role that on game days was to pick all the contestants for all the contests, to do the meet and greets with all the brand partners and things along that nature, anything that had to deal with a brand.
And Jake, what could you share with our audience that is directly related to the power of using your voice? And I say that because you mustered the courage to use your voice in that moment to elevate and to support someone else. That is what I teach. That is what is so important. Share more about that.
Well, I think the thing that stops most of us from doing something like that is the fear of being seen as different, the fear of being rejected, the fear of failing. And these are all things that stop us, whether it's to start working out, whether it's to start our business, whether it's to just do anything that puts us out of our comfort zone. And I've kind of gotten to a point where I kind of realized the simple truth. If I never go for anything, if I never use my voice, nothing's ever going to change. And so the minute I realized, like, you know what, if we go for it and you fail, well, guess what? You're still right back where you were. And for most of us, that's an all right place to be. But if you never try, you're never going to know. And then on top of that, I really learned this from my parents about it's not a matter of always succeeding the way other people want you to succeed. It's about succeeding to the best of your possible ability. And that means that you should give yourself unapologetically to everybody. Give yourself and put yourself out there, because the right people will resonate with the right story at the right moment in their life as well.
Jake, talk to us a little bit about your story and how your story has gotten you to this place beyond working at the Lakers and having that connection.
So once I was done with the Lakers, I was writing a book as I was going to and from the office, and I was starting to build my story. And I think what's really interesting for me is, as I'm looking at this, and I was excited to talk about this with you today and beforehand, was that I was thinking about this whole journey aspect, right? Because oftentimes when we talk about our story, we think we can only tell things that have already happened or that don't exist anymore, essentially in that sphere of your lifetime. But I think what's really amazing is that the journey is what makes people respond and engage in that moment. And then the stories that come from your past experiences allow you to dive deeper. So for example, like, I have huge ambitions. I know where I want to go. I know what I want to become. But along this journey, and I share that with people, the ups and the downs, the what's happening today type thing. But along the journey, I share the stories of the Jerry West. I share the stories of how I released my book on the day Kobe Bryant retired from the NBA, why I use certain colors in my book, how I got to go to China as my first international speaking gig and spent two weeks in a crazy, awesome learning experience, right? And all of these different things aid to the story, how I started a combine, how I was featured on an event with LeVar Ball and LaAngelo Ball, and how we got them to come and bring their whole TV crew. All of those mini stories play a role into the bigger journey. And I think that that's something that's really powerful when we talk about the impact of story and how that can play a role in our audience as well as in our life.
Amazing. Jake, all of these touch points and mini stories that you're sharing with me are incredibly powerful. And ultimately, they show your massive success and the impact that you want to have in the world. Can you share with me and the audience a personal moment that has transformed you into this kind of ambitious person who wants to shine a light in the world and make the world a better place? Clearly, that's part of your mission.
When there's so many moments that have gotten me to this point, but there was one moment in particular when I was writing my first book, and I was terrified because what if no one read it? What if I put it out there and people like just hated on me because they were like, what kind of 23-year-old can write a book on career development? And I just had all the negative thoughts. And I was trying to figure out, do I even do it? Do I not? How do I do it? I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I had something that could help people that wanted to get a better job. And my dad put me aside and he talked to me, and we're at the island in our family kitchen. Okay, we're walking around the island, kind of pacing, kind of talking about business, entrepreneurship. And he looks at me and he says, Jake, everybody in life wants the secret sauce, the secret shortcut to success. Everybody wants a shortcut to fame, to wealth, to status, to title, to everything. He goes, but here's the truth. Here's the truth. There is no shortcut. And then we paused and I was like processing that. And he said, well, actually, Jake, I have something for you here. There is a shortcut. The only shortcut in life is to start now. And the moment you start, and I was like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. And then we kept going and he was like, the moment you start is when you start to create the future you've always envisioned. But the longer you wait, the longer you're going to regret, the longer you're going to wait for things to happen. And that moment when he told me the only shortcut in life is to start now, everything else has become easier because one small action every day makes a great life.
One small action every day makes a great life. Everyone, take that in. It's a really powerful statement. Jake, can you talk a little bit about the power of story with your speakers and how you get them to share in a way that is vulnerable without being raw?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest questions, right? Because this is something that we all struggle with. And in your work, I know you know this. But what I always like to tell people is you talk about the journey, but you don't talk about the wounds. Okay, and I heard someone kind of give this analogy of not talking about the wounds, but talking about the scars. And what that means is, like, let's say you're going through a terrible breakup and you want to be vulnerable, you want to be raw, you want to be authentic. Well, right now is not the time necessarily for you to talk about that and use that experience as your story to relate to an audience. But if after the fact it's done and you're still going through it, but you're at a place where it's now a scar, not a wound, you can start to talk about it, divulge information, and allow yourself to be vulnerable. But being vulnerable, I think for me and for the people that I work with a lot, it has to come at a place once you're confident with who you are. Because you can't be vulnerable and share everything if you're not ready for the next phase of what's to come. And so I always tell people, be open, be transparent, be authentic. People want to see the ups and the downs. People want to see the mistakes. That's how we connect with people, because then there's an emotional bond. And people buy from emotion. People make decisions based off emotion, and they confirm it with the logic, which is the messaging behind the stories and the experiences and the vulnerability that we're sharing.
Amazing. Jake, let's go back to China and speaking there. Was that your first speaking engagement?
That was my first international speaking engagement that I had ever done. And it was unbelievable. Unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
Tell me more.
So I got invited to speak in China. And when I got there, I had 2 translators that picked me up at the airport. But from the very minute I got there, I remember getting off the airplane and I didn't know what they looked like, the people that were picking me up. And also I didn't have Wi-Fi in the airport, which meant there was no way I was going to be able to communicate with anybody at all. So I literally am getting off and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to find these people? I don't know what they look like. I don't think they're going to have a sign for me. Like, I'm just coming off a plane, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up sitting in the airport for hours and hours and hours until nobody's left, and then they'll get me. But I get my bags and I start walking out, and they knew they were waiting for me, and they were like, Jake. And so right there, I knew I was in like this amazing, safe, fun experience. My 2 guys, they took me around. They showed me the greatest experience. And the first gig that I did, because I was there for a couple weeks, the first gig that I did, they drove me to the gig. And when I get there, there's a big banner, and I think it said, "Welcome, Jake from the United States," or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And then as I get closer to the hotel where we're having the engagement, there's a 10-foot banner of a blown up picture of my face with all these Chinese writing, like welcoming me to China. And it just blew my mind. And it was just like the most amazing feeling that I was going to need to deliver even more than I normally do, because they had set the stage for me to want to provide an incredible experience for them. And then the craziest part, I think, through it all, though, was as I was talking, it was the first time I had used translators. So as you can tell, and everyone who's listening, like you guys can tell, I talk fast. I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of movement. Well, in China, I couldn't have the same speed or the same continuous energy or the same continuous jokes that I may normally tell, because I had to wait every 5-10 seconds to be translated. And so that was the first gig of the many that we did. That was like one of the craziest things for me to learn and adapt and adjust, because you can't really prepare for that. So I just had to make the most and kind of laugh as I went and learn as we went on.
I love that story. Jay, can you talk to us about what you spoke about that day? What was your topic?
The topic that I spoke about was a combination of how to achieve personal success and how to grow an incredible network and how to connect with people.
And what personal story did you share to connect with that audience in China?
The personal story, you're taking me back here. The personal story that I talked about was working with the Lakers, because the Lakers and Kobe are very big in China. And I knew that that would be something they could resonate with. Not everybody, of course, just like not everybody in America knows who Kobe is, but that was something that would be able to really resonate. It would bridge the gap. Basketball is big in China. So I knew that that was going to be an opportunity to really bridge the gap. And also I had pictures and I was able to tell the story that way in case people weren't understanding me or it got lost in translation. So that was what I really kind of focused on to begin. And then using different types of hand gestures, right? Because our body speaks a lot of words without actually saying anything.
I love this. And for our audience, I'm just going to highlight that you shared a lot of pictures. We can paint the picture of a story often with video or images and not necessarily have to speak the language of the pictures that we're painting, of the stories that we're telling. I think that's really amazing. I want to know, Jake, how do you help NBA draft prospects sign their first contract with the art of communication, with the art of performance, with the art of public speaking, since you are a speaker?
So when I had finished with the Lakers, I'd written my first book. I wanted to find a way back into sports. And in 2016, end of 2016, beginning of 2017, the NBA had announced that there was going to be a new contract, basically meaning there was 60 new spots for American basketball players or any basketball players to play basketball in America. And immediately I thought, okay, this is a perfect opportunity to expand my network, connect with agents, connect with team executives, and provide an incredible service to players to perform in front of all the decision makers. Because if I could get them in all the same room, there was going to be a chance for magic to happen. And so that's essentially what we worked on for several months, put the event on, put it together. We had 23 players come. These are all players that want to go to the NBA. They've all declared for the draft. They've all left college, and they're all ready for the next phase to sign that first contract. And once we got the players there, not only did we have them focus on communication within themselves and also on the court, but we focused on how to get them in rooms with the NBA personnel. We focused on doing interview training with them and talking about how you're just one connection away. You don't need everybody to like you here. You just need one scout, one team to fall in love with you during these next 48 hours. And if you do that, you're going to have a chance at the next level. And that was all it took. And these guys just fed off each other's energy, and all 23 of them ended up signing a contract to play pro ball following that first year.
I love this. It is so similar to the Speaker Salon Showcase and the Big Talk Academy's virtual showcase, where we put speakers in a room with TEDx organizers, event producers, conference organizers, influencers, podcasters. It's the same thing. This is the same model that actors use with agents and managers. I love that you're using this model and that you're teaching these athletes how to communicate in a way that's going to build them up for success. It's so fantastic.
Yeah. And when you take it one step further, right? Because oftentimes we know we just need that one big break, or we need that one chance to showcase. And a lot of these players had been either overlooked or that people that hadn't believed that they were at the top of the draft board. So we brought them in, and all they needed was one chance. Well, we had a guy in 2018 get that one chance, and now he's in the running for Rookie of the Year of the NBA. So that one chance will lead to more gigs. It'll lead to more opportunities. And it goes back to the quote I mentioned earlier: the only shortcut in life is to start now. Prep, take advantage of your opportunities, know who you're talking to, know what you bring to the table, and continue to over-deliver. And people will start to see that and feel that and bring you on to more and more, which will be how you grow your business, how you have more fun, how you build better relationships, and the list goes on and on and on.
Are you ready for the documentary Start Now with Jake Kelfer?
Yeah, I am.
I should get ready for that, Jake.
Let's do it. We'll make sure to bring this into the documentary as like one of those flashbacks.
Awesome. What's the one last story that you want to share with our listeners that will have an impact in your career based on your experience?
Ooh, so many good stories to think about. Let me go with, I'll go with a story that when I first started, when I was launching my first online program. When I first launched my online program, I had the thought, like many people, I was like, okay, I think I know what everyone wants. I think I know exactly who I'm talking to. I'm going to put out this product. I'm going to spend all this time, all this energy building it, getting videos, doing all this thing. And then I'm going to sell it, and it's going to go viral. It's going to be crazy. It's going to hit my first 6 figures. I'm like, yes, let's go. And I got ready to do this. I spent a couple months. I'm like, this is it. This is everything. And I launch it, and so few people buy. And I was just devastated. I was just devastated because I was like, is this ever going to work out? Then all those negative thoughts started coming over. But what I realized from that was an incredible learning experience because once that happened, I was able to start thinking about, well, what were the mistakes I made and how can I learn from them? And for me, a big part of being able to enjoy the game of life is by being willing to put yourself out there, is by being willing to try something. And even if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's never going to work. It just means not now. And that's been a big thing that has helped me as I go and experiment and try to go bigger and better every single day, that there are going to be days that I do fall back, that I do make mistakes, that I do mess up, that I do say the wrong thing. But I'm always willing to learn. And if I could leave anybody with like that lesson from that story, is like, get clear on exactly who you're talking to and what they want. And then be really clear on what the result you can provide for somebody. And if you can't and you make a mistake, it's okay. Get back out there and keep going, because the game of life is meant to be enjoyed, and we just got to keep playing.
Amazing. I want to thank you, Jake, for being a featured guest today on The Big Talk. Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yes, the best places to get in touch with me are on Instagram at Jake Kelfer, or on my website, jakekelfer.com. And we'll do one special thing for everyone who's listening. If you enjoyed this at all, I'll give everyone a free copy of Elevate Your Network, which is my second book. And all you got to do is you can find it in my Instagram bio or on my website.
Amazing. And we will put all of this in the show notes. Thank you. That is so generous. I hope that you will start sharing your powerful story today, and be sure to subscribe and click on that notification bell so that you get access to my newest and latest videos. And I really appreciate that you are here and will always respond to the comments. Big love.